Hello, and welcome to another episode of Expert Talks powered by InnoVint. I am your host, Lauren Heindel, and today we have a treat for you. I am here with Liz Mercer of Wise Academy, and we are talking about the state of tasting rooms. Yes, what's working, what's broken, and what we suggest wineries should fix in 2026 to have a successful year. All right. Thank you so much, Liz, for being here today. I'm super excited to chat with you. Let's start with you giving us a little bit about your background and how you ended up with Wise.
Yeah. So I actually started in a tasting room 26 years ago as a temp, and I had no idea what I was doing. I barely knew how to use a corkscrew and just kind of learned by doing. Worked every facet of DTC from events and trade hospitality. I was a wine club manager for a number of years, worked with small family-owned wineries, worked with, corporate and publicly traded wineries, large family wineries. I worked with everything. And in the middle of that journey, I was approached by Lesley Berglund, who was Wise's co-founder. And she said, "Hey, we want to create strong leaders, which in turn create healthy teams, which in turn help successful wineries. Do you want to be a part of this journey?" And I jumped at it. And that was way back in 2009. And then in 2016, started working part-time with Wise. And now I am full-time with Wise and a partner at Wise.
Awesome. I love what you guys do over there. And from your vantage point, what is Wise's mission? Like, what are you guys all about at Wise?
So when Lesley and her partners at the time were starting Wise, it was really all around wine industry sales education. What happened if we actually tried at direct to consumer? And up until that era, up until, really the kind of the financial crisis, DTC was kind of an afterthought at a lot of wineries. Whereas we know it to be the lifeline for a lot of wineries. What
Yes.
would happen if we actually professionalized it, if we actually created career pathing, if the next generation of winery leadership came up through the DTC channel? And so she put her energy and her resources behind really professionalizing. We now have 150 full 8-hour days worth of content.
Wow.
We do mystery shopping, we do classes, on-site coaching with wineries and associations, and leadership, forums and cabinets. We have all these different ways that we can help wineries. So we've got a pretty big vantage point, and they're all over. They're not just Sonoma centric, all up and down the West Coast, basically from British Columbia to Temecula. Um, let's stop in Texas and the Midwest along the way, all the way out to the East Coast, including, let's throw a little South Africa and Australia into the mix. So we're speaking from broad perspective.
That's awesome. And I know you kind of just touched on it, but other than, DTC being kind of the livelihood of a lot of smaller brands these days, what are some other biggest shifts you've seen in tasting room performance over the last couple of years?
Yeah, particularly in the Napa Sonoma area, where we had some pretty big events happen that took us offline for a while. So we had fires, we had these
Hmm.
huge events happen, and our friends in the Pacific Northwest had the same. And
Hmm.
so there started all of a sudden these big, huge things that were outside of our four walls of our tasting rooms that we could not control. The pandemic happened.
Yeah.
All these big, massive events. And wineries, smart wineries, wise wineries, started to shift between how do we lessen the dependency of driving our DTC business beyond the tasting room? How can we think about other channels? And
Hmm.
so now wineries that are faring better than others are really thinking a lot more broadly. They're not so dependent on their tasting room as their main driver of new club acquisition, of all revenue. They're kind of shifting the mix a little bit, if you will.
That's so smart. And I mean that flows perfectly into my next question. And thinking about sort of the state of tasting rooms today, we hear about this all the time in the media. Traffic is slowing. Guests are expecting higher touch experiences. Guests want to have more of an in-depth situation versus just a splash at the bar. Teams are struggling more with training and coaching and consistency. These are things we're hearing all the time. So, from your perspective, do you think that generally tasting rooms are performing better or worse in 2025 compared to previous years, and why?
Wow, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, I came ready.
Right? It is such a mixed bag, to be totally honest with you. So we work with very strategically with some fantastic data and technology partners and who have deep visibility into a lot of what's happening. Community benchmarks, analytics, wine pulse. And so because we have such trusted, deep relationships with them, there's really not one answer to that question. We kind of had this advent of more tasting experiences in more regions. So people were going to fewer wineries, and you're right, the expectations are higher. And
Hmm.
that's not even driven by the wine industry, that's outside the industry. Think about guest experiences at other businesses and other verticals. That's all changed.
Yeah.
So the question that we ask, and we speak to 100 winery leaders every single month through our leadership programs and through our courses, we ask, what are the top performers doing that's gaining traction? Let's
Yeah.
focus on that. Because that way, if your traffic is up, down, or sideways, you can still adhere to the best practices and you can adapt them so that no matter where you are and no matter what your region is experiencing, you can control what happens within your four walls of your business.
That's so brilliant. And you touched on this a little bit, but I'm interested to dive deeper on guest behavior. You said like think about other experiences, and my mind goes to like music festivals or hotels and how that guest experience trends are changing. So, what about those are surprising you or like standing out to you right now?
Yeah, I think, it's a great idea to let them do the heavy lifting and
Hmm.
figure those things out and then see where we can adapt in our industry. So the experience within the experience. You walk
Okay.
into almost any airport in this country, and trust me, I spend a lot of time in airports. There are lounges, right? There's the experience within the experience. Hotels have concierge lounges or concierge levels. Festivals have VIP experiences. They've really tapped into the experience within the experience. And our
Hmm.
guests are demanding that because that's what they're exposed to in other parts of their lives. Why not within the wine industry?
That's so smart. I mean, I've never thought about it that way. You're going to an experience, but then you expect a deeper experience, and it does create that exclusivity. Then you're actually seeking it out as a guest, as a customer to go deeper with the brand. Great. So, next, I want to talk a little bit about tasting room best practices and that guest best practice. So, when you walk into a tasting room that is in the top 10%,
Mhm.
what are you immediately noticing as someone who's done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mystery shops?
Is this the part where we tell them that we went mystery shopping too?
Yes, let's talk about it.
Yeah, so it's about 75 data points that we've looked at consistently since 2012
Hmm.
across tasting rooms, and we can see the trends. In fact, we're about to drop a white paper that talks about some of those trends. And we've done a really good job as an industry at elevating the guest experience, kind of this whole conversation that we're talking about.
Hmm.
Where we still struggle is on the sales side. Um, and as I'm sure we're all feeling that right now. But we can tell when we walk into a tasting room just by how cohesive it is. Is there a clearly differentiated brand message that's really coming through in that experience? You can be a small family owned winery making world class wines from world class grapes. That all may be true. And trust me, we've heard it 1,000 times, but it's how you differentiate it and what cues that you're bringing out, that your team is bringing out. That's what really sets it apart. So, am I falling in love with your brand? Are the cues there to help me fall in love with that story? And does it come alive at every touch point in that guest experience? That's what the winning wineries are doing. They're creating memorable, emotional connections.
Mm, emotion. That's a big driver for feeling connected to a brand. And speaking of feeling connected, Can you share any examples that you've experienced that don't feel forced or maybe unnatural, that just were like, ah, right on the money?
Yeah, I think it all goes down to selection of who is working in the tasting room.
Mm,
Hiring people who are completely bought into the brand story, who are completely aligned and who are completely passionate and put hospitality first, and who are interesting people. They know how to hold a conversation. They know how to engage the guest. So that it's not always scripted. And just to use an example of when we went tasting, how did you feel our host did? Were they scripted or did they have a lot of empowerment? Let me ask you the question.
Wow, I'm normally not on the other side of these interview
Oh,
questions, but it felt extremely scripted. And there were even times where we asked questions to, dive deeper in one specific wine or just broadly about the valley. And they were completely thrown off and pivoted right back to the script.
it didn't
Yeah,
feel tailored. It felt generic,
no. Yes.
right?
Nailed it.
And so, as winery leaders, are we giving our team members enough to talk about, enough interesting
Mm.
things to talk about?
That's so true. And there were even times where, we're mystery shopping. So it wasn't known that we are living in the valley and have been around the block a couple times.
Yeah.
And there are things that were blatantly incorrect. And that's not a good look. We want to
Yeah.
make sure we're empowering them with experiences they can speak to that deepen these understandings of the wines and the family or the story of the brand. Yeah,
In the
definitely. Yeah.
region, right? So,
Yes.
does your local vintners association, does your local wineries association have fact sheets and a
Mm,
story that we want to be telling to the world? Does everybody in the tasting room know those things? And our associations go through a lot to pull that together.
yes.
And those are often made free or very low cost to the wineries. Are we using that as a training resource?
Such a good point. I work very closely with a lot of the associations throughout the wine industry in the United States, and all of them have a plethora of information and they create the most beautiful graphics that just
Yeah.
educate people, they educate consumers, they educate people pouring the wine. So are we using our resources to the ability to strengthen our teams? Another question around kind of like pain points and, areas where we can maybe improve.
Yeah.
What is the number one mistake that you're seeing tasting rooms making right now?
I would say it is not having a very good culture around the business objectives.
Mm.
Um, and that can go both ways. And so that's why I answer that very, very carefully. It can be too salesy, and we don't want that, right? Where it's too aggressive, where there's too much emphasis on I need to check these boxes and do these things, and my sales need to be this or they need to be that. Or it's the other side. We're too passive. Oh, they like the wines. If they like the wines, they'll join the club. The club brochure is there. Of course, they're going to see it and pick it up and join. We had a beautiful club brochure in front of us that our host did not share with us.
Yeah.
But clearly, marketing had done their job, and it was printed and it was beautiful, yet it was not leveraged as a resource. So it's finding that balance and it's deciding what are the things that really are going to move the needle for the business, and then coaching the team on the right balance. Core to a wise fundamental is sales comes through superb service. If we are giving phenomenal guest experiences, then we should be following that up with the sales being a natural extension. I noticed you absolutely loved our Chenin Blanc, or I noticed you absolutely loved this particular fanciful name. Reinforce that fanciful name. Say it again. How many can I set you up with? Or we just featured that in our club shipment, or that's a club member's favorite. Or would you like to get on our mailing list and keep in touch so that I can invite you back to the winery for that event that we were talking about? So making it as a natural part of the conversation without being too salesy, but
Hmm.
without being too passive and finding that
Hmm.
fine balance and allowing every staff member to put their words in their voice, but then get the point across. Yeah.
Brilliant. I couldn't have said it better myself. This is why you're
Yay.
the expert, Liz. Okay, now more of like a technical question for
Ooh,
you.
okay.
Why do so many wineries still struggle with KPIs like capture rate or club
Yeah.
conversion? And, why are these important? And what should they be doing with these numbers?
A couple of things come up for me with this one. First of all, remembering that people respect what you inspect. So, as you as a manager, are we inspecting the numbers? Are we having regular conversations about that? And are we teaching the numbers through open book management? Are we posting scorecards and KPIs so that everybody knows this is where we are and this is where we want to be? And
Hmm.
how do we get collaboration and shared problem solving to help us grow from here to extraordinary, right? Up here to a top performing winery. So first of all, measuring the right things and tracking the right things. Every person on the floor should be able to answer. Here's what my average order value is. Here's what my average order size is. Here's what my conversion to purchase, conversion to club, conversion to mailing list. Like if we just focus on those, right? The WISE triple score, how many people bought wine, joined the club, joined the mailing list. If we just focus on that and get everybody bought into that and teach them that, hey, when you do this, that's your winning move, go do more of that, right? Like, here's the winning numbers, here's what success looks like. And so, do the powers that be have that clearly identified? Or are we just chasing metrics because we can and posting metrics because we can? Or are they actionable?
Hmm.
So bringing people into the process, teaching them the numbers and letting them own the outcome can be kind of fun. And
Yeah.
definitely change the trajectory of the business.
You're saying that wineries possibly struggle with KPIs because they're either collecting too much data or they're not taking the data and empowering their team to improve upon it.
And then are they actually using the data that's collected? And so you
Yeah,
have both the quantitative and the qualitative. Think about, I mean, how long was our tasting experience at the first winery we went to?
it was almost 2 hours. It was a bit
Yeah. And how much personal information did we give to our host?
minimal.
Yeah. Because again, on a script
Hmm.
and just asking, or just going by the script, but over a 90-minute experience, I mean, I don't know, let's think of any other industry in the world. Would they kill to have a 90-minute experience with a guest where they're
Yes.
telling you like, "Oh my God, I love this."
Any other industry. I mean, it's hard to even imagine another industry that gets that one-on-one time with their direct buyer where they can just discover as much as they possibly can about that buyer. So,
Yeah.
such an important thing to remember as a tasting room manager, as a wine club manager, you have direct access to these people that are visiting you. So use
Yeah.
it
And
wisely.
getting it into the system, that's where we
Yes.
fail. Our
Okay.
our wine educators, our hosts have those conversations. And it goes up here, but it does not come out here. It does not get into the system
Hmm.
so that whoever picks up that relationship doesn't have any of the context, where they went to dinner, what other wineries they were going to, what their favorite varietals were.
Yeah.
There's so much great information that should be happening over conversation, and then getting that into the system, um, and whatever your system is, you know.
Yeah, that's my follow-up question to that. What technology are you seeing people use to grab this information? What guest data, is the most important to be entering? I know you talked about that just a little bit, but like what
Yeah.
platforms are nailing this that you would recommend?
Well, there are a lot of gems out there. And there's
Hmm.
a lot, and I do appreciate that our technology partners are continually innovating, and bringing new things to the industry. One of the things I remember my very first wine club that I ran, it was on an American Express, little keypad, 10 key that we were
Wow.
keying in with a ruler and an Excel file and a highlighter. I mean, like we were kicking it old school back in the 1900s. Okay, so technology has come a long
1900s.
way. It has come a long, long way. Um, but the thing that I continually see is that wineries are paying for best in class services. They're investing, hundreds of dollars a month, sometimes, tens of thousands of dollars a year in their technology stack, whatever that may be, the right stack for them, but they're barely scratching the surface of how they can use it.
Mm,
They're not getting good information into the system. They're not tagging customers appropriately. They're not using the notes appropriately. They're not, looking up a customer to see if they've been there before and putting that new order under. They're not looking at their preferences to see if they've visited, what else they've tasted, or did they indicate if they're using an external reservation, oh, we're most looking forward to tasting this, or we're celebrating that. Does that information make it to the host to then bring in that moment of surprise and delight or show that we've been listening? So are we even using, regardless of what the tech stack looks like,
yeah.
are we even scratching the surface and using it? I will say we work with just about all of them because our clients are on all of them.
Hmm.
Uh, and the thing that we hear over and over again is they're just not using it. And yet they all offer free training days. They all have, great resources available on their websites. So dig in 2026, own your technology. Uh,
Love that.
yeah. Take
I
advantage of
mean,
these resources.
coming from a technology company, we always, always, always aim to empower our customers with as much support and, one-on-one attention and videos, everything,
Yeah.
all the time.
Documentation.
Documentation,
Yes.
thank you, support center, like all of those things are so important, but it is on the customer at that
Yeah.
point to take advantage of those things. So,
And
yeah,
And then thinking, oh, now you got me excited. Then thinking integrated, right? So, like, what are
yeah.
our inbound and outbound communications? What is our fulfillment company? And our fulfillment companies have come such a long way
Hmm.
with the ability to do some really incredible things with premium tracking products. It's really exciting. 20 years ago, I was dreaming of the day when we had all this technology, and now it's here. So let's use it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's use it.
Yeah.
And we actually have data to support it from our 2025 State of Winery Health Survey that wineries who adopt modern technology are more profitable. So that
And
is huge.
And we can also show retention. We can show higher average order value. We can show referrals. I mean, like there is
Yeah.
so much. There's all the reasons of yes to do this, but yet we oftentimes haven't identified, or maybe the manager who that rolls up to is not a technology champion. Go find that technology champion on your team, right?
Hmm.
Go
Go
find that
find them.
person who always has the latest phone and who always has the latest tech at home.
Hmm.
Get them involved in your tech.
Yeah. So important. We're looking forward to 2026, and I am wondering from your perspective, what will the best tasting rooms do in 2026?
Yeah. I think the best tasting rooms are going to double down on their team members. We've had to work harder than we've ever had to work in the last couple of years. And they will continue to invest through training, reaching out to their associations, finding those resources that are free, finding their technology partners and what they're offering for training. Obviously biased, but bring in Wise to help with this conversation as well. Our blog is free, it's not gated. You can go to our blog and read blog articles that go back 15 years on all these different topics. Coaching is a continuous activity, it's not a one and done activity. So the wineries that are going to succeed are going to double down on their team members. They're going to continually be coaching them, and then they're going to take calculated risks. They're going to start small and kind of go a little bit bigger. Maybe it's road shows. Maybe it's doing some more outbound communications. They're going to try some different things and not be afraid to take risks because that's what the top performers did in 2025. And I think there's still some opportunity and a lot of runway um, there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Liz, if a winery wanted to meaningfully improve its tasting room in the next 30 days, where should they start? What should they do?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So in the next 30 days, what I would do is I would take an inventory of all the resources that I have available to me. And I would say, okay, what is it that we have? What are all the things that are out there that are open to us that we can then use? I would say every single guest coming in starting tomorrow, the next time we open our doors, we are going to get serious about data capture. We're going to build a robust database. The wineries that follow up with guests who visited them are the ones who become memorable, and those are the relationships that become sticky. So I'm going to start as soon as I hear this podcast. I'm going to start getting in deep with my customers, and I'm going to do that follow up, and I'm going to nurture that relationship, and I'm going to use that plus all these resources that I have available combined to drive my 2026 programming.
So smart. Thank you for that. That was another great episode of Expert Talks powered by InnoVint. Thank you again, Liz, for spending your time with me. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and follow us on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. And again, thank you, Liz, and thank you to Wise for your depth of knowledge and everything that you do for the industry. And until next time, cheers.